One of the things that I've always liked about the Selmer bass clarinet, the 33s, and also I was an instrument repairman for 25 years. And I became kind of an expert on refurbishing bass clarinets. Saw a lot of bass clarinets, a lot of Buffets and Selmers. And for me, I just have always felt that the Selmer bass clarinets had the best focus. There's something about the sound in the Selmer that I just don't get from other instruments. I just feel like there's a focus and there's a power. And also the intonation, particularly on this instrument, is just fantastic. I only make mouthpieces that I'll play. So I have kind of a limited range of sounds that I like on clarinet and bass clarinet mouthpieces. Fortunately, a good percentage of people also like that style, so I've been fairly successful. I'm not sure that mouthpiece design is necessarily specific to the instrument. I think that mouthpiece design has to do with a good acoustical design that's efficient. Now, you can compensate also for different instruments by playing different tip openings. So for example, I've found that most people that play Buffet instruments like a slightly more open mouthpiece than I play myself. That may be some kind of compensation. But also, the Selmer and Buffet bores are not hugely different. You know, there's a long tradition for many, many years. The Selmer C-Star was the goal for anybody that was making mouthpieces. Let me see if I can make one as good as a Selmer C-Star. I think Van Doren, their mouthpieces are not designed the same as the Selmers, but I think that they were going for that type of efficiency and sound. I'm really an amateur as an artist, and I'm not about making some profound statement. I have a friend who's a very good artist, and he's got a story behind every painting. And I was talking to the other night, and I said, well, what about just making a pretty picture? Is that okay? But there's definitely a correlation between, I think for me, having this hand-eye coordination that I've developed with instrument repair and mouthpiece making, and also being able to draw. And maybe it's because I was able to draw, then that I was able to also make beautiful mouthpieces. And that's a comment I get on my mouthpieces a lot. People look at them and they go, this is beautiful. This is really beautifully made. And I've always been an artisan, and I've really tried to put attention to the detail when I was repairing instruments too. And I see a lot of instrument repair now, and I look at the work and I'm like, well, it's functional, but it's not beautiful. So my paintings, if you've seen them, are very colorful. As far as my mouthpieces are concerned, I just really don't like this concept when people say, can you make me a dark mouthpiece? I'm like, no, no. Dark is like no color. Dark is black. Dark is nothing expressive or interesting. I make colorful mouthpieces. Harold Wright was in the tradition, I think, of more like, well, with the Boston Symphony, where my teacher played for many years as bass clarinet. Selmer played in the Boston Symphony. Was it Henry Selmer? One of them played in the Boston Symphony. Alexander, yeah. So there's this tradition of the French school, and then so Alexander, and then also Hamelin played in the orchestra. So there's this long tradition of French and European players, and then Gino Cioffi, who played principal, and then Harold Wright, who, I mean, still, to me, Harold Wright has the perfect clarinet sound. I just always thought his sound was singing and beautiful. And, a lot of people point to Robert Marcellus. Robert Marcellus was a great orchestra player. He was just fantastic. And, the recordings that he did with the Cleveland Orchestra were just stellar. But that recording of the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, I find really boring. I don't find a lot of color in his sound, and I don't find it very expressive. So even though he had so many students that he influenced, he was still not my favorite clarinet player. And even people like Phil Fath, when I was very young and I was first in the opera orchestra, he came from the New York school. He had studied with Rushinoff, and he played with this beautifully ringing sound. And it was, sitting next to him, it was a little bright, but when you went out onto the orchestra, it was just, he could, with very little effort, because I sat next to him for many years, and he didn't play loud, but he had this color in his sound that just soared over the orchestra.